Co jest z moją kamerką, what the fuck? No, nie mogę zacząć z tego bez jakichś problemów. No bo że się ten... Światło? I my? To nie zgaszę, dobra, to chyba nie przez światło. Hej Snoki. To jest 56. To kanał zrobiła, no dokładnie. Nagle moi znajomi się odezwali na Messengerze, halo, co się dzieje? A nie, dobra, nie to. Nie odezwali się jedno. Hej! Im się zaciął? Nie, nie ma żadnych zgubionych klatek, okej. To mój internet. Na Boże, na telefonie. Mimo, że się jak ty zaczniemy obierać, dobra, na tak. W dużym skrócie, wyszedł Golden Archipelago. Moja ulubiona szczerze miejscówka tak naprawdę. W całej grze i ze wszystkich eventów. I... O kurde. I najpierw sobie zrobimy komisję, a potem idziemy tutaj. Albo tu? Nie jestem pewna, jakby to jest story quest kazuchy. I nie wiem, czy najpierw to zrobić, czy najpierw to. Bo ja lubię i kazuchę, i Golden Archipelago, jakby ten archipelag to był początek po prostu faktu tego, że posiadam kazuchę. Hej, hej, z ekstref. Dobra, najpierw to. This Noel is amazing. Czy ja dostanę w końcu achievement z tego? Tak. I need inspiration, dokładnie, nie no, artist block potrafi być naprawdę wkurzający. Dobra, to wezmę tak, to wezmę tak. Co mi tu się pobiera na tym telefonie, what the fuck? What the fuck? Co nevermind. Jego series, tam jest go series. Dobra, dawaj, biel motywację, inspirację. O, chyba się mi internet podoba. Jak na zdówko, dobrze. Ja przyszłam na skarbę, bo Ekstef mnie zasmuca piosenkami. What the fuck? Smuca piosenkami, no to ich nie słuchaj. Oh, come on. O Boże. Ej, nawet nie wiecie, jak ja tak naprawdę Ja wiem, o czym oni doskonale gadają, bo ja sama nie jestem... Ja czasem piszę sobie książki czy coś, jakieś opka krótkie, to często mam nawyk do dawania zbyt dużo mocy jednej postaci. Albo na akademii. To jest zbyt kuszące czasem. Dobra, co teraz? Powiedzcie mi, że ja po prostu szybko Nowe powiadomienie, zawartość ukryta. Zajebiście. Może tak to zobaczę. Tak to widzę przynajmniej, że nikt nie pisze. Dobra. Było monolit. Tutaj nie daje line monolit. Okej. Beczki, beczki, dużo rzeczy wybuchowych. Pokczamp. Fuck. Okay. O fuck. Jednak jest ich więcej. Ok. Hej Karolcia. Jak tam noc? Bo widziałam, że pisałeś do mnie. O. Bo jeszcze nie miałam. Tak jest. Dobra. Okej. Tak, no. No to tak. O. Dobra, czyli musiałam wszystkich miście. Hej Guciu. Mam dwie. Hej Karol. Hej Oliwia. Nie tu, nie. No co? Dobra. Ja mam ostatnią. Yeah. To co, będzie mój DD puszczać to Steamie? Czy na odcinku Matiego raczej to się to zrobi? Hej kotek. Ok.
Clouds high, the birds call.
Where are they coming? They're coming?
Teamwork is strict. Brace yourself. This is gonna hurt.
Gdzie? A tu. Nie pasują do mnie? Spoko. Niektórzy mówią, że pasują, niektórzy, że nie. Albo że wyglądam na starszą w nich.
I'm going in. Let's light it up. You're toast. Nice and spicy.
No niestety, ja je noszę, bo nie mam za najlepszego wzroku. Trochę ostatnio też zaniedbałam, nie nosząc ich właśnie. Okej, to skończone wszystkie, dobra. O. Dobra, najpierw kazuchę zrobimy. No to ta historia ma być ciekawa, bo z tego co pamiętam, co zaczęłam wczoraj, to ktoś szuka kazuchy.
I'm very sorry, but we cannot afford to pay what we owe right now. My husband has gone missing and I'm still trying to find him.
No, you misunderstand us. We are here to help with the investigation. We'd like to ask you some questions about Mr. Nagato's disappearance, if we may.
Ah, I see. I thought the debt collectors had come to visit again. I'm sorry you have to see me in this dreadful state. Has some new information come out? Do you know where he's gone?
Jak chcę, to buduje stajnię,
I'm
okej.
afraid we don't have any new
Okej, plus
information.
10 do inteligencji, można tak
We're still trying to
powiedzieć.
find out as much as we can.
Raczej plus 10 do widzenia.
With this in mind, can we perhaps ask some questions about your family's current situation?
For example, I'm struggling.
That's a long story. Ever since I've known him, he's been an avid collector of all sorts of things. He'd always get so animated when he was showing them to me. I knew nothing about the items myself, but seeing how enthusiastic and excited they made him, I was happy to believe that they were just extremely important to him. Everything was fine when we first got married, but as time went by, things changed for the worse.
Uh-oh.
He lost his sense of restraint. He started buying more and more things, and even resorted to borrowing money just so he could pay for them. Our expenses really spiraled out of control when he started getting interested in weapons. It was awful. There were days when he'd spend hours down at the warehouse, admiring his weapons even as debt collectors were descending upon our house. He wouldn't sell them, wouldn't even touch them. Just sat there staring at them like he was in a trance. I'm happy he has a hobby and I'm willing to support him, but making ends meet has to come first. I've tried talking to him about it so many times. On the last day that I saw him, I gave him an ultimatum. I said, if he refused to sell his collectibles and pay off his debts, I would divorce him and take the children with me.
Whoa.
And that led to an argument.
Actually, it didn't. Generally, he's a quiet man who likes to go with the flow. On most things, he leaves the decision-making to me. You must understand, I never would have dreamed of threatening him with divorce if the debts hadn't pushed our family to the brink. After I said those words, he froze and was silent for a long time. When he finally spoke, he awkwardly mumbled that he would pick out a few items to sell. His voice was so meek and pitiful that I felt an urge to take everything back. But then what? If I didn't draw the line, what would happen to our family? Had I not indulged his bad habits, we wouldn't have found ourselves in such a predicament. And I also don't know if he had actually come to his senses, or if he was simply angry with me. The next thing I heard was that our warehouse had caught fire, and both he and the buyer had gone missing.
I see. Amin Omayuya came to purchase a weapon from Mr. Nagato. During the sale, a fire broke out at the warehouse.
At first, I assumed they must have gotten in, but my husband has never been one to negotiate. He never even haggles when he's out buying groceries, so it's hard to imagine him getting...
Maybe he was.
I don't know. He just disappeared. Perhaps he's too afraid to come home now that all his collectibles have been lost in the fire, and he's got no way to pay off our debts. Even though I'm still a little mad at him, we're a family, and I want us to face our family's crisis. As long as he's willing to turn over a new leaf, I know.
Please don't get upset. There could be more to this situation than meets the... If collecting things is a habit that Mr. Nagato had his whole life, it is quite... But the information we gathered from the other side suggests Ame no Mayuya is also a mild-mannered man who would not be likely...
A little confusing.
Let's try a change of scenery and see if we can piece together what we've learned. Rest assured, we'll notify you if we find...
Thank you so much.
Mam dziwne wrażenie, że ktoś tu jest opętany.
Based on the information we've gathered so far, I can only surmise that the sales meeting between the two men was somehow the catalyst for their disappearance. And the fire at the warehouse likely played a part in how the situation unfolded. Though it's exact... Do you have any thoughts?
Well, Nope, never mind. Paimon's brain needs to rest for a while. Over to you.
An interesting explanation. I was also Ame no Mayuya is an expert on swords. He could have noticed some maybe he recognized a blade as a fake, or a well-known stolen item. Either way, after arguing about it, the two men agreed to hide the truth of this matter. They thought a fire would destroy everything. But then the Tenryou Commission began investigating, but it's a far-fetched theory. I can't imagine how they would have been able to reach an... One fact that I keep coming back to is that Ame no Mayuya is polite and well-mannered, while Mr. Nagato, being heavily in debt, is also the only one of them with the potential motive. The more I ponder it, the more puzzling it becomes. Just what could have happened there? Right. Although the time frame seems to broadly, Ame no Mayuya lacks a key distinguishing feature of the attacker. Namely, that he is principally a practitioner of the blade testing techniques of Amenoma art, not those of the combat-oriented Ishin art.
Darn! We thought we could get
Zaczynam się gubić.
here, but it's different. It's starting to look like a wild goose chase.
Let's keep going, since if we can solve the case, both Mr. Amenoma and Mrs. Nagato will be able to get some clothes.
Okay.
Let's head out of the city and check out the warehouse. There's still a chance we...
Jestem confused, mega confused. Jakby dwójka facetów poszła się dogadać, bo jeden chciał sprzedać miecze, bo nie miał za co zapłacić rachunków. Ale drugi miał to kupić. Tymczasem sobie ogień wybuchł. A oboje zniknęli.
Wait. I hear something ominous in the wind.
Zawsze coś słyszysz.
This must be another one of those. As sketchy as that whole thing seems, you did put it to good use when we were chasing down that vision thief at Beto's tournament.
Now I'm picking up a strong scent in addition to the sound. It's right around...
But there's nothing here.
It's gone now, but I can still sense the direction it left in. It felt very much like that ancient presence in Inazuma. The remnants of the Tatarigami, indeed. But this unexpected spring of inauspicious energy may prove to be a... We should remain vigilant.
So it's an
The force is definitely coming from down below. The source of the Tatarigami energy has long since left this place. But the residue it left, judging from the concentration, I would have to conclude that the Tatarigami source resided here.
Mrs. Nagato said her husband used to hang around the warehouse by himself a lot.
It could could well be that he was already under the influence of Tatarigami energy at that time. From
To
what
co
I
myślałam.
Tatarigami, but most will develop a stubborn streak upon being exposed to the Tatarigami's unfulfilled will. Their interests. Mr. Nagato had an interest in collecting to begin with. The influence of Tatarigami could explain why he became an obsessive hoarder, amassing more and more possessions, even—
So what should we do now? Go down.
Step back. I'll open the door and take a look. If we don't open this door, we can move no closer. You needn't worry. Both of us have faced far greater dangers than this. Relatively
What's down there?
Everything's buried in debris. I can't— It looks like the fire caused a cave-in, reducing the entire warehouse to rubble.
That was too scary! Paimon was so sure that the warehouse boogeyman was about to jump out at us!
All we can do now is keep searching in the direction of the Tatari, two ordinary humans, entangled with the Tatarigami. I fear much Yes, let's go. If nothing else, quiet your mind and focus on what you sense around you. Perhaps you
Ej, skupmy się i w ogóle. O ku. Ja nie zauważyłam tego wcześniej. Jedziemy w czarnym dymie. Dalej tam?
No time to lose.
Nie ma co. Nie jest ta babka zliła? Ta babka jest dziwna.
From this point, the trail appears to split into two. The main source of the Tatarigami energy continued on into the distance, but a small portion remained here and seems to be dissipating slowly.
Whoa! Look at all those fairy trails! They're acting really strangely!
Something seems to be drawing their attention. Let's take a closer look.
Teamwork is dreamwork! Out of the frying pan!
It's,
Ooh! Look at this!
by the looks of it, a letter written on a piece of torn clothing. The ink is bone dry. It must have been written quite some time ago. Well,
Oh.
let's...
I am the god. Okay. Okay.
According to this letter, a conflict arose because Yuya started the fire that destroyed the warehouse and wounded Mr. Nagato in the fight. Mr. Nagato kept chase as long as he could, eventually stopping here.
So,
He was not only mortally wounded, but also under the heavy influence of Tatarigami. Add to that the fact that whatever traces there may have been of his fate beyond after this point, they've since been disturbed by the hilly churls. There's nothing more for us to find here. Yes, Right now, if Ame Yuya is attacking other people indiscriminately, then the longer we take to find him,
Right. So let's get moving.
I wouldn't be surprised if he too fell prey to the influence of. For a practitioner of the martial arts, the easiest desire to inflame would be their pursuit of further. All the clues that at first seemed disparate and disconnected. I have a hypothesis that, if it's correct, not only explains the series of events leading to the two men's disappearance.
Wait. You figured it out? So these two cases.
I believe so. But it's something of an outlandish idea. I will only be able to confirm my suspicions once we've met him and on with the search. We must stay vigilant. At any point.
No to nieźle. O, to lubię. Wskazówką zawsze są takie te przejażdżki. Dobra.
You see,
Why here? Is there anything special about this?
I'm not sure. But on closer examination,
Show yourself. It's no use hiding anymore.
Ulala.
Haide Harakazuha. It's you at last.
U.
So wait, what's your problem, huh? What could you possibly have?
Indeed, there should be no enmity between us. If it is Ame no Yuya, but what if instead of facing Ame no Yuya, we are in fact facing the blade in his hand?
O, nieźle. To jest bardzo ładne ostrze, ja je chcę.
Now that you mention it, it is. Oh, whoa! Surely.
Tatarigami energy often lodges itself within physical objects, then works to suck. The blade has resided in Mr. Nagato's warehouse for many years, or rather, as a means to occupy Ame no Yuya's body.
You're sharper than I thought. You've already deduced that many years ago, I was forged by a famed bladesmith of the Ishin tradition. I was his pride and joy. In me, he placed all of his descendant of the Kaidahara clan. You should
I presume it has something to do with the Raiden Gokat.
indeed. At that point in time, he failed to live up to the Raiden Shogun's expectations. In the end, he was a bladesmith of great renown, a master of his craft. There was nothing that he could not accomplish. All he needed was more time, and sure enough, in the end, he achieved what he had set out to do. All of his life's work. He not only bestowed upon me the greatest of strength, but also, in her conceit, the Raiden Shogun lost not only the single most perfect blade in the entire world, but also an irreplaceable achievement.
Swords?
The people of the time in which I was born never believed I had that kind of power. They saw me as a mere blade, a sharp and well-crafted one, but in all other respects an ordinary weapon. After the death of my creator, I decided to leave Snezhnaya and began my long quest to return to the distant land of Inazuma. Moving from one person to the next, I controlled the minds of countless hosts along the way, each bringing me one step closer. I seek but one thing: to face the full force of the Raiden Shogun's blade and prove my power, the might of Ishin art.
So Ame no Yuya was not your first victim.
No to
Tell me,
nieźle.
what happens to those you've possessed when you've finished using them?
My hosts? Who cares what happens to them? They are but tools that serve my mission. When they got tired, or injured, or unusable, I hopped to the next one in line. All I needed them for was to take me back to Inazuma.
You're awful.
After I returned to Inazuma, I decided to bide my time in Nagato's warehouse until Ame no Yuya, and at long last, I'm approaching my journey's destination. By Ame no Yuya's body, I have found you, and by your hand, I shall defeat the Raiden Shogun.
Okej. Ostrze umie mówić. Przedstawiam tego dziada. I jego głównym celem jest pokonanie Raiden Shogun w ręce Kazuchy. Pokczam.
Kaede Harakazuha, you stood against the Raiden Shogun's Muso no Hitotachi. Now, give your body.
Nope. Będziemy walczyć.
Wind Strider.
Ja poproszę, jak ty jesteś zbudowany? What the fuck? Ile blade? Okej. Wzmocnienie boosta. C3. Okej. 9, 11. Bo 9 było jest to tak ile w tym? 11 przez konstelację. What the hell? Okej. I to jeszcze mi zamieniło Kazuchę, what the fuck? O co chodzi?
Riptide. No time to lose.
Jesteś...
Boba, get them!
Let's light it up! Adventure time!
Do not stand in my way, or I will
Your bluff's fooling no one. You've lost.
lost. I can never lose. It is this body that has reached its limit. Nothing more. Even if you defeat me here, the one who falls will not be me. He is but a puppet that can be replaced. I can take a new vessel at will. The end result is the same. I will end this wretch's life before you can lift a fi- And even if I were to lose my physical form, it is but a small setback. By any means necessary and any medium available, I shall return.
Your fighting style. It is indeed the forms, but from your movements, I sense only hatred and arrogance, as well as a thinly veiled mania and despair.
Shogun czy Shogun? Jak myślisz, że jest poprawna? Na jeden Shogun, ja mówię.
Really? You can tell all that just from his.
Ale nie wiem, jaka jest poprawna.
As I've mentioned before, the forms of since the blade is currently possessing Aminome Yuya's body, if you ask me, the mania is probably due to your desperate, single-minded ambition.
Are you trying to claim that I am helpless without you? On his deathbed, he passed to me all of Ishin Art's secrets. The little that you know barely scratches the... In that regard, why would I ever need your...
Because all of that is in the past. I've been wondering why you've not caused more trouble in all the years that you've been in Inazuma. If you are indeed a cursed blade that can possess its owner, now that I've seen inside your mind, everything finally makes sense. You are... After all the time that's passed, you have grown weak. To the point that you are now unable to acquire a new host without making physical contact.
Oh, that's right. Paimon remembers now.
Only when Mr. Nagato witnessed his wife's distress and decided to sell his collectibles did you finally have an opportunity to reach out to Aminome Yuya and...
What a...
Well, that brings me to my second point. There's a despair in you that is so strong it threatens to overwhelm you. You were determined to fulfill your maker's ambition, whatever the cost. But this ambition is too grand and too heavy. I think you realized your limitations long ago. The more you clenched your teeth and pressed forward, the greater your fear of losing everything you had achieved grew. And the more you wished to run. But the way I see it, what began as an ambition has long since become a delusional fantasy.
What would you know about any of this? I'm just one step away.
You returned to Inazuma to prove the unparalleled brilliance of Ishin art. But to make this arduous journey, you committed countless atrocities and showed a blatant disregard for even if you were to sever that divine light. Is this truly the outcome that your maker would have desired?
You...
Sure, you
Me.
inherited the secrets of Ishin art, But even as you made your journey to honor this legacy, how could you possibly unleash the full potential of Ishin art when you act in perfect discordance with the principle of harmony between—
Silence, you blabbering. I must achieve my goal. This, I will concede that you are most perceptive. You see my predicament clearly. But you also—
And you should face reality.
Easy for you to say. Facing reality, I have no need of anything that would stand in my way. Not hesitation, not self-reflection, and certainly not your so-called reality.
No, prawda w sumie.
It is pointless to argue further. Descendant of the Kaedahara clan.
How stubbornly you stick to your way. I do not believe for a second that you can challenge the almighty shogun in your current state. So let us make—
Surely you're not planning to agree to.
Very well. Then find yourself some enemies with whom you wish to cross blades. A taste of my power will more than convince you. Once we have dealt with them, we shall proceed to Tenshukaku.
And as for your end of the bargain, if you lose, you must release Amino.
I accept.
Do this, Kazuha!
Okej. Okej. To mi się podoba. Już był cały opętany. Teraz będziemy mieć Kazucha opętanego. Z żywymi oczkami.
To save Amenoma Yuya. If we don't, the cursed blade's strength is currently very weak, and I sense he's hesitating. This suggests his heart is still not completely devoid of the power of the Tatarigami lies in intensifying existing obsessions. This is the reason Mr. Nagato and Amenoma Yuya. Even if things take a turn for the worse, we have a chance here to save an innocent victim. I am willing to accept the risk.
Your disdain for me betrays your woeful ignorance. I agreed to now. Take me in your hand.
Co?
I'm okay. I felt a little dizzy at first, but only for a moment. It's all right. So far, this was as I expected. I will. Thank you.
What should we do next? Have you.
We find some enemies. Although this blade has endured much turmoil, it probably hasn't experienced many real fights. If a blade built for Ishin art cannot enter a state of harmony between blade and if he wants to avoid reality, we need to fight until he has no choice but to face it. He shouldn't last long in an
Okay.
intense combat situation.
Wait a minute! Paimon remembers hearing about since the Takatsukasa clan abandoned that secret base. It's been held by Ronin ever since.
All right. Please lead the way.
What about Amenoma Yuya?
The blade says he'll let Amenoma Yuya trail us silently. Although he hasn't regained his own consciousness yet.
Are we sure this is a good idea? It's okay,
Do ciebie? A dobrze. Gram sobie, bo wczoraj Mati powiedział, że nie mam psychy zrobić streama z Genshina. No, jednak mam psychę. Gdzie ja mam iść? Tutaj test tęczy? Tutaj, dobra. Ojku. Czy to było w tym dziwnym miejscu, gdzie nie pamiętam kompletnie jak się dostać? O? O. Domain. Domain! Okej. Znowu mi zamieni? Nie wiem. ten Kazucha ma ten sam build co wcześniej i nie ma ten build. Okej. Okay. No, wzmocnienie boosta, wiadomo. C3. Talenty do tego takie, bo ten. Dobra.
Leave everything on this journey to me.
Hello.
Wind Strider.
A, sam, bez akcji. Okej. Może spróbuję ich tu przeciągnąć, żebym z ognia coś wzięła. O, dokładnie. O, fuck, jest ich więcej. Ojoj. Chodźcie to.
As one with wind and cloud. Wind Strider.
To nie wiem, co innego jak normalnie filmy czy shortsy. I don't know.
I'm all right. The blade is performing largely as I expected. Having gone so long without proper use and maintenance, it's become very difficult to use. Though he's making every effort to persevere, I do not think he can last much longer.
Something else on your mind?
How strange. Rather than trying to control me, he's instead trying to match my fighting rhythm. Let's keep going.
Ja na przykład się nie mogę też zdecydować, czy może animacje normalne, czy może shortsy animacje, czy może stream z animacji. I can feel you down. Sema. Ej! Nie lubię jak tak uciekają.
One with nature. Clouds hide. The birds call. The wind knows me.
Whoa! Something's up with the blade!
I can sense that his strength is slowly fading away. The blade is becoming more and more difficult for me to wield. He cannot hold out much longer. If he keeps persisting, he will likely break apart at any moment.
But what would that do to
I will be careful with it. He also says he does not have any plans to give up easily. He's still trying to achieve his goal.
Mhm. Śmiesznie. Jakaś skrzyneczka to może? Aup. Woda. To jest ładne miejsce. Jezus, Paimon, nie krzycz tak.
Time to go.
Myślałam, że Raiden Shogun nam się objawiła. Śmieszne, że ja mogę widzieć tak naprawdę tą trudność, którą ma Kazuha, bo on się ogólnie skupia na elementach. What the fuck? Okay. On się skupia na elementach i on bardziej woli grać elementami niż grać tak samotnie. Chyba, że no ma się jego C6. Dostanę trochę na YouTube. Też!
Fallen leaves adorn my night.
Okej, tak to Kazuha.
You okay? It looked like you were really struggling the entire fight!
Yes. And it looks like he's...
Shin's grown a bit dimmer again. It doesn't look anywhere near as impressive as
Perhaps this time we'll finally have a chance to see his true form.
true form. What is this the same blade as before? It looks like a piece of junk!
If you choose to continue in the state you're in, you wouldn't even be able to beat samurai and kairagi, much less the almighty shogun. Maybe you did truly wield power to rival the shogun's light when first forged. But the long journey from Snezhnaya back to Inazuma has left you battered and broken. It barely needs stating anymore. Your ambition is a flight of fancy. I finally figured out why it was that you agreed to my bet. You wanted to reach a state of harmony with me. For perhaps then you would still be able to wield commendable power. But regrettably, we are nothing alike. I will never understand your obstinacy and cruelty, nor can I empathize with the one who made you. The only one who truly understood you had already passed away by the time you were born.
There they are! Take them down!
Where do they keep coming from? Yup, we can help this.
Don't worry. I'll use my own blade. It's just more of the same.
My own blade? Boka. Fitted blade! Będziemy frytować szybki. Ulala. Niestety on. No i o wiele lepiej. Wciąż żyjesz?
As one with wind and cloud.
Ui.
You fought way better with your own sword.
You are a true Kaedehara in flesh and in spirit. No one knew anything of my story throughout my travels, nor did I tell it to anyone. You are the first. I thought that if I could achieve Ishin harmony with you.
But in this too, you have failed.
Indeed. No matter how hard I tried, I could not attain that perfect harmony that your personal blade does. Too much time has passed. My physical state is poor, and without proper maintenance, I can only yours is the blade that took on the Muso no Hitotachi. And what a magnificent blade it is. Perhaps I shall never.
Actually, this is just a generic blade that I picked up during my travels in Liyue. Forging and maintenance are both important for a blade, but they are not everything.
Jakoś myślałam.
This blade has traveled the land with me for many years, and we have formed a close bond during that time. Plus, in the moment that I most needed it, I received aid from another power, skill, blade, determination, and desire. All these must be aligned in the practice of Ishin. There is something else I must tell you. Though your maker may not have been aware, your ability to possess your own consciousness derived from the power of the Tatarigami. Tatarigami is a malevolence from the ancient past. It is the source of your mania, and though you tried to cooperate with me while I was wielding you, the part of you driven by
I sensed it, but I couldn't change it. It is an
I resisted its temptations because I wanted to save Amenoma Yuya. But I do not know whether I feel a great sense of regret for you. Since you embarked on a journey bound for it, the moment you embarked on this journey, you lost the only person who could have ever unleashed your true potential. And yet there was no way for you to turn your back on his ambition. You have known this for a long time. It is the true soul.
He gave me everything. How could I possibly do? I said to him, do not worry. From here on, I shall forge your legacy. How could I go back on my word?
Aww.
I believe our bet is now settled. I have nothing.
Where are you going, Kazuha?
He now has neither the ability nor the motivation to cause further harm. Let's give him...
Chcę pogadać. Nie? Szkoda.
touched the hilt for the first
Skrzynka
time, the
jest!
bladesmith lay quietly on the bed, his frail face barely visible under the moonlight. A newly forged blade lay by his side. Listen.
Wow. That was the blade's memory.
Indeed. While in exile in Snezhnaya, the bladesmith eventually learned the truth behind everything that had happened. He spent the rest of his life in the forge, not to vent his frustration and hatred, but he felt intense regret at being tricked by the Fatui, but he could never again return to his homeland. His sole wish was to one day return his single, proudest creation back to the land of his birth. So he instructed this sentient blade to find a way back to Inazuma, no matter how long or how hard the journey. All he wanted to show was that they once shone brilliantly as blade and smith. That they...
So that but after that, the blacksmith's intentions were warped by the Tatarigami.
Right. I believe the bladesmith might never have known that the power he worked with was that of the Tatarigami. The hatred within that power is what sent the blade down its ill-fated path. This blade has committed unforgivable atrocities, but only because it lost its original master. No one was there to correct. Yes, time would not wait or stop because of his determination. While the world moved on, his ambition remained stubborn. He seems to have calmed down now.
Najpierw wezmę skrzynkę. Skrzynka ważna.
When I look back at the past, I can remember the day of my forging like it was just I once told him that I would pay any price to fulfill his wishes. Such was the debt I owed to him, but darkness and slaughter numbed the mind. Not only did I fail to fulfill his ambition,
You are finally seeing reality.
since we agreed to the terms of the bet, I will honor the... But I still cannot bring myself to forsake his ambition. So, may I ask you...
Hey! Now you're adding yours into the mix too?
It has to be done in this order. At least hear what I have to say. And if you don't agree, my physical form, as well as the knowledge I possess, should still be...
His attitude hurts. What do you think, Coswa?
Let's hear it.
Thank you all. When I was first forged, my maker was already terminally ill. He told me that, alas, after that, nor have I ever had the chance to prove myself. My fights were devoid of any noble meaning. They were merely the next step in my never-ending journey. The next in a long line. You are a fine warrior. I would like to request your hand.
Oh? And who would be the...
I will release Amenoma Yuya and restore his consciousness. Perhaps after that, you can convince him to commit to a fight. You must have plenty of reasons to both hate me and desire a good fight.
Understood. Then let's start by waking him up.
I see. He used my body to inflict harm on others. I utterly despise him and his actions. But since he stayed true to your agreement by releasing me, he must still have some remain. If a duel can help to set this state of affairs in order, I am willing to put... I do not wish to be a mere victim in...
There's no need to worry. We'll vouch for your innocence to the Terry.
Thanks for your help. Who knows how this would have ended without your
All right, then let's move on. More Ronin could appear at any moment. We can't stay here. In any case, for a final duel, I think we should aim...
Yay, challenge complete. Już mój kazucha? Mhm. Gdzie my idziemy? Tu. O Jezus Maria! Ej, czat mi się zawiesił, spoko. I teraz jak zobaczyłam OBS-a, teraz widzę, że coś pisaliście, what the fuck. Hej Fawnew, tak to jest tylko z kazuchy, mam 8 poziom świata, hej Onobet, hej Kalocia ponownie, hej Mikośń. Przepraszam. Ale mi się czas zaciął. Jezus Maria.
This scenery is wonderful.
Nie lepiej tak.
Surely enough to convince anyone to become a wanderer.
56 poziom, no. Ale powiem ci, tak trochę tego dużo. Tak obliczyłam, że może za jakieś 2 miesiące bije 57. Ale zobaczymy po questach. Czy ja myślałam, że to jest skrzynka, what the fuck?
Time to go.
Ała.
This reminds Paimon a bit of the Crux crash. Yep, we still can't let our guard down, even now. Still, are you ready?
Ready? Okay. Successor of Ishin Art, Kaidahara Kazuha.
Ale kazucha, pięknie. Nie ma sprawy, mogę pomóc.
Honored to cross blades with you.
It is my honor also.
O a, dobra, już walczę, dobra. Panie, że przy wodzie. Op. No, walczę, tak. PZ Ishin Blade, o kurwa. O kurwa.
That hurts.
O, nie uciekaj. O, kap.
Wind Strider. Fallen leaves adorn my night.
Okej.
Wind Strider.
Lepiej.
Thank you for the experience.
Chcesz zrobić od razu Kokomi na DPS-a? Przecież ona jest healerem. Rozumiem, jakby ktoś jakby się nudził sobie, że zrobił na przykład Barbara DPS-a, Kokomi DPS-a, to spoko, ale...
Although he appears battered and broken, in your hands it seems his sense of savage cruelty has completely faded away. But that same sense of determination remains.
You also fought well. I'm sure there are a few things that I shall leave him to tell you.
I must apologize to you for all that has transpired.
You need not seek my forgiveness, nor do I have the right to forgive you on your victims. It is too late for all of them.
I do not wish for forgiveness. I
Ooh la
only
la.
wish to see my transgressions as mine alone, and not let them stain the legacy of Ishin. I strayed far from the straight and narrow path, but the Ishin art still has a word. I beseech you. Please.
Yes, I too trust Mr. Kaedahara to do.
Thank you. Success.
This blade has also told me that he has another wish. He would like to visit the Amanoma smithy. Maybe we can go back there together.
What does he want to go visit?
I'm not sure, but I think that
Jedna postać, którą mam grać. Tymczasem jagająca wszystkim. Dosłownie. Mamy tu wszystko. Kurde. Nawet Claymore się znalazł. To jest jakby moim pierwszym DPS-em. Się strasznie przyzwyczaiłam do Claymore'ów wtedy. Łatwiej mi było używać innych tych. Na przykład, no. Pamiętasz mnie? Chyba ze wczoraj. To cię pamiętam, ale tak wcześniej to nie. Ła. Nie lubię jak moje ucho boli. Ła. A ta gila nie zaczepię się od... Siema, jesteśmy u Kowala.
I am sorry to have troubled you. It's all
A prized Ishin blade, turned weapon that controls the human mind. Considering their forging philosophy, this was indeed within the realm of possibility. But I have some good news as well. Ryuji from the Bonton Songo Detective Agency.
Really?
Yes, badly wounded, and now that Hyuya is back, it seems like the final ending.
I think I know what you want to do.
What's wrong, Kazuha? Is the blade whispering?
Yes. He said he wants to take control of me for a brief moment.
What? No way!
He tells me that he's thought of another way to fulfill his maker's wish. And he assures me that he won't use my body. I have decided to let him. Thank you. I will explain my reasons later. Okay. I am ready. Let us begin. Please, stay true to your promise.
Cutscenka.
My power is almost spent. Without him, my eventual demise is inevitable. But if I abandon the future to give everything I have in this moment, my physical form can be forged anew.
Everything? You mean...
Yes, the cost is my entire consciousness.
Hello.
You were right. There's nothing that I can accomplish now. But there's still a chance for Ishin art. Once remade, I will be a valuable resource for your studies. Ishin lives on, and its finest hour is yet to come. Even if
Kazuhakowa.
the Shogun, as long as it is an Ishin blade, crafted like hands.
No, bo jeśli jeśli są to artefakty z tego, Boże, tego Spainu, to spoko.
My real name has been forgotten by all. I'm ashamed to utter it, yet it remains strong in my mind. Kagotsurube Ishin. This name is now yours to keep.
Rest in peace.
Nawias Mamy.
So, that's why he said his consciousness will disappear forever after fulfilling the blade.
Kagotsurube Ishin. It seems like deep down he disapproved of his own actions. Only in the final moments, before his...
Seems like he really wanted to.
The same fervent ambition that gave him the motivation to keep going forward. Speaking for myself, I'd rather see him recognize and atone for his mistakes than see him punished for them. I understand. Perhaps this is hearing his wish to rival the divine light. Your quest to face the gods and trace your sibling inspires me in the same way. After everything I've seen, perhaps these pursuits fascinate
Ale
me.
lubię w tym questie jak kamera jest uchwycona, ładnie to wygląda.
I will continue to support you from this point on. Know that you will have my assistance.
Wait, shouldn't we also go update?
Oh, you're right. We need to, and it's also time to give him a response.
Co? No tak, dobra. Skończymy questa i skończę. Oj, poczekajcie. Dobrze, że nie słyszycie jak się da, ale tak. Kończę tego questa i muszę kończyć. Ktoś bardzo chce, żebym zjadła obiad.
Then we needn't recount all the details again. Now, as to your earlier offer, I wish to give you my answer.
What's this?
Kagotsurube Ishin. A weapon crafted by means of a series of fortuitous events, I was able to recover and restore him. I also and so, it looks like I will likely continue with my journey across the nations.
I see.
The Kaidahara clan has always been a family of bladesmiths, so it is only proper for me to continue. Were I to accept your goodwill, I may find myself embroiled in conflicts between the shogunate and Sangonomiya.
You misunderstand. That was most certain.
I am aware, but I still
Very well, I can understand. Then let's, however, if you should ever change your mind or find yourself in need of the shogunate's assistance, please do not hesitate to inform me.
Dodam potem jasne.
Great.
Where will you travel to next?
I'll as for my next destination, let's see where the wind takes me.
Uwielbiam tę kazuchę. Strasznie go uwielbiam. Mamy ostrze. Dobra, a ja się z wami żegnam. Nudzi mi się. Dobra, po obiedzie pogadam z tobą, ale na razie kończę, także pa pa.